I'm Tracy Dunsmore with the Merritt RCMP, and I'm currently posted with the First Nations policing section in Merritt. So I'm involved with working with the First Nations communities and in not just in a reactive but preventative way, trying to work with the Truth and Reconciliation and kind of build that bridge with the RCMP and First Nations communities. I've been with the RCMP for 32 years, so I have been involved in many investigations with missing persons, including Cherish Oppenheim was one of the first investigations that I was working with when I first came to Merritt. And I've been with Search and Rescue for 30 years in British Columbia, so I've also been involved in the other side of the missing persons end of things. So, as an RCMP officer, our role too is to build that gap and that bridge where we've kind of had a lot of animosity or mistrust between police and Indigenous communities over the years, and I have seen it change. I'm the liaison for missing persons for our detachment, so I've seen a big change in the way that we take reports and how we investigate and ensure that we're doing things in a proper way and in a cultural manner as well when it is Indigenous related. It was a really powerful event. I was quite familiar with Cherish's file because I had worked on it. I hadn't been to the site, so it was really powerful to go there and to see it, not just knowing how the investigation had been done, and I've known Shelley for many years, Cherish's mom, so kind of seeing both sides of things, but also how it impacts the family and community members, and I guess as a police officer, how do we get involved and ensure that this doesn't happen to other youth as well. I think that social media is a big risk factor for a lot of youth. When we think about missing and murdered from even historically 10 years ago, it's a different kind of way that we need to start looking at it. And I've used lots of technology and lots of social media, but the kids are so far advanced, and some of the new types of investigation and trafficking and things that we're seeing are all in the social media world, and so it's a lot easier for kids to get caught up in that without parents realizing it or knowing it and knowing what's going on. So I hope that we can educate not just the youth but the parents as well, and what to look for and try and protect the kids.
So my name is Lucy Henry. I'm a youth development recreation worker for Shocking Community Health Services, and I live here in Merritt, and I'm part of the Cold Indian Band, and have been here for 35 some odd years now. My involvement in the Merritt Indigenous Women's movement, or being a part of this committee, really touched me personally, because we were involved in Cherish's walk, or her search when she passed away years ago. So that's very dear to me, and that was a huge community event, just doing that with the family and stuff. So just really felt that I wanted to be a part of this committee because of the work that's being done. I think it's so important for our kids, our students, parents, community members to know about the Merritt Indigenous Women's walk and program, and it's just it's good education. It can be a community event. It's the one that we just did recently here in Merritt brought out hundreds of people, and for a good cause. It's good education for the kids, and it was a time for me. It was a time to gather as a community for such an important event. So that, I think every community should have one. I think it's all about the education and prevention work that needs to get done. So I'm so for it, and it was just so neat to watch all the red shirts walking and being a part of something as that. Even though it's a tough subject, I'm not gonna lie, it's a tough subject, but It's so important to gather as a people, to gather as a whole community for the awareness part. My hope for the future is not only it happens here in Merritt, in our community, but also all over the place. I'd love to see this all over in different communities, even some of the surrounding communities, you know. Let's bring this to light, and let's bring this to other communities to be a part of it. That would be my hope, right?
I'm Dawn Ellingson, and I am a grade 6-7 teacher from Nicola Cantford Elementary in School District 58, Nicholas Milkamy. I personally am of a European ancestry, so I was not fully aware of the missing, murdered, and Indigenous women and girls problem going on in our country, and it was something that my experience with Shelley Oppenheim about her daughter and losing her daughter brought to me how people in the world need to understand. When we were invited to go to visit Cherish Oppenheim's gravesite, I was horrified and shocked that her family would be willing to share such tremendous pain with a group of colleagues, yes, but people who might not know her family very well. I felt very nervous to go. I was not personally connected to the situation and the tragedy of losing Cherish. And my heart broke before I even got there. And when we got there, Shelley and her family shared their deepest pains, their darkest hours, and it was a tragedy beyond understanding unless you were there with them. And they held hands and they cried, and as someone of non-Indigenous background, I learned how they would use their traditional teachings, their traditional culture to help them cope with what tragedy had come to their family, and they shared that with us. It was an honor to be invited to go to that site, and I was shocked that Cherish's family would invite us to do that, and they thanked us for coming, and the fact that they thanked us for coming just was beyond anything I could understand. And it was a way for them to share the critical importance for everyone in Canada to understand that the missing, murdered, and Indigenous women and girls affects all of us, and that Cherish needed to be able to share her story, and her family, Cherish's family, enabled her memory to live on. Her story has become part of my story. I went for a hike with some of my own family members about 3 weeks after, and it was high up in the mountains, and we could see the valley where Cherish was found. And I looked, and the only thing I could think of was that's where we went to learn about Cherish and the family tragedy. And all I could say to the family members of mine was, they found Cherish down that valley, and I will never look at that valley the same again. It helped Cherish's story become part of their story too. My hope would be, as a society, we learn to properly honor and cherish all members of our society. Women, Indigenous or not, need to feel safe and shouldn't be targets of violence. And as a society, we have so much learning to do. And if we can share stories about Cherish and other women and girls, then it becomes more real, and hopefully we can learn and grow as a society to look after all members equally.
My name is May George. I'm from Coldwater Indian Band, and I work at Scw'exmx Community Health as a mental health manager. Been in the Valley for, in my position for 18 years. I have a personal connection. I knew Cherish. Cherish is a part of my family, and so I'm connected that way, as well as my own personal experience with my sister. My sister Linda George was murdered January 1st, 1997, so it's impacted our family, impacted me as a person. So this work is really close to home for me. I think it was so uplifting just to be on the walk, to remember my sister, to remember Cherish, and just to feel like I've done something and hold their memories so close to my heart. And for others to understand the importance of the missing Indigenous women work, to educate people, and to see the little ones wear the red. Sure, just warms my heart. Just to be there at the site, of course it was difficult, but it was also just incredible healing for me to be there, to listen to Shelley, to be with others, and just, it's like holding Shelley and her family in a sacred way, and remembering Cherish and all the work that it's done, but all the healing that has happened as well. So yeah, it was just an incredible time to be there and just to witness what took place that day that I was there. My hope for the future is that we'll continue to reach out and educate people about the importance of remembering the ones that were taken from us, and just moving that forward in a really good way, in a really sacred way.
Okay, my name is Erin Scw'exmx, and I am Health Promoting School Coordinator at District 58 here in Merritt, Princeton. I was invited to be part of the MMI Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Two-Spirited Committee, and until that point, I thought I knew a lot more than I did. Being able to interact with Shelley, hearing her story, going to the site, being part of the vulnerability and sadness and personal experiences that were shared was incredibly heartfelt and impactful, because it becomes real. It's somebody's daughter, and as she told the story, I could feel my mother's heart just watching with her, wondering, and then the heartbreak of finding her body and the grieving process and having the community come together. It was incredibly impactful. It was also hopeful in that standing at the site where her body had been found and just looking at the nature and being part of some of the healing processes that were going on, looking at steps people were taking to understand, listening to conversations of people who, like me, were not aware and were brokenhearted at hearing the story, banding together to share healing practices, some familiar, some unfamiliar, some comfortably to participate in, some that you feel more comfortable taking a step back and watching. But I think the overall impact for me was, and I guess the impact that I would like to see for other people, is the hope and the healing that this does not have to be a way of life, of tragedy that continues to happen. We are all part of solutions, and we're all part of healing, and hearts join with hearts, and there's grace, love, and forgiveness, and we will just keep holding hands and marching forward and making the world a better place together. Hope for the future is that there's increased understanding amongst people, that we don't sit in fear of misunderstanding or not understanding. The hard places are hard to go to. They're messy, they're miserable, and we have a tendency to avoid things that are hard, avoid things that give us discomfort. But my hope is that people will step into the discomfort, that will see the personal relationships involved, and again, just that there's a working together and hope.
I'm Vicki Lessert. I'm in Scw'exmx from Quarter Band in Merritt. My sister Cherish Oppenheim was taken from us when she was 16. There were 4 of us girls. My sister Ashley is the oldest, and she was 2 years older than Cherish. Then there was Cherish, then myself. I was 9 at the time, and now I'm 30. And the youngest sister is Kelly. My parents are Shelley and Victor Lessert. Visiting my sister's site, I found very touching, but then the process felt like healing. It was very emotional, the last time I was there when I was 9 years old. It brings flashbacks of the emotions as a 9-year-old to being back when I'm 30. And it was emotional, but then feeling everybody's caring and love put more strength into our family to know Cherish is in a better place, and honoring the ones that have lost their loved ones. I felt it was comforting knowing there's lots of people that didn't know that there's actually the truth behind the missing and murdered women and girls, and to open their eyes and what the details that our family went through, that how it touched them emotionally, and to understand where we came from healing through all these years, and to show our youth what has helped me was our tradition teachings with the land, the water, and everything for them with their different tragedies. I know a lot of people struggle, families struggle to let their loved ones go, and I think it's such a great healing process, and not letting the person that has done it to take our lives over, to move on, to bring awareness, to keep other people safe, and to push forward, to empower and aware people on what's out there.
Hello, my name is Jane Kempston. I am the Assistant Superintendent in School District 58, Nicholas Milkmead. So my connection to missing and murdered Indigenous women is probably a fairly complex one. I have the real privilege of having known and worked with Shelley Oppenheim and her family for many, many years, and was teaching one of her younger daughters when Cherish was murdered, and experienced that with one of her children through a very different lens that I have now. So as a very relatively new teacher, really largely unaware of many issues that I should have been aware of, but watching the trauma of a family and the suffering of a sister was pretty pivotal in my own life. I similarly have a cousin who has an Indigenous maternal grandmother who lives on the downtown east side and is a sex trade worker and has been there for many, many years. And I understand the challenges that she faces, and I worry for her every day and every night. And when I see something on the news or read a story or an article, I think of Rhonda and I wonder, if she's safe today and how she is today. And so there's that piece. And then as a community member in the Nicola Valley and a mother of 2 daughters, and someone who has been really blessed in having their friends come in and out of my life and watching children grow into young women, it weighs heavily on wanting to have a safe and secure community and world for everyone to be in, but particularly young women from our valley. So as far as the experiences that I've been involved with that have been put forward by the committee, I've been really fortunate to be a part of two specific that I'm specifically thinking of. One was visiting Cherish's site, which was incredibly powerful, really frightening. I was really, really scared to go and be in a place that for me felt so terrifying and so dark. And what I found is being a part of that ceremony and that those cultural practices, I did not feel that it was a dark place. I felt that Cherish's family had taken it back from that, and that it was a place of great sadness, but it was a place of power and empowerment, and that they had taken back something that was so grievously taken from them. And I will never forget that day. It was an amazing experience. And then recently I joined Merritt Secondary on the walk that they participated in, and it was wonderful to see young women and men, teachers, administrators, the community coming around young people saying, not here, not our kids, not here. We're not gonna, this isn't who we are. We believe in safety, we believe in dignity, we believe in respect, and not our kids. And it was really wonderful to see shopkeepers coming out of shops and cheering kids on, and to see kids walking with real pride and purpose, and standing up and saying, this is a good community and we are a strong place, and that's what that was for me. So it was a great experience. I am very fortunate to get to work with Shelley, and I'm sure she'll let me share this story with you. She had to do she chose to do a presentation at the Missing and Murdered Women's Inquiry, and she had to write out the story of what had happened, and that was quite challenging for a lot of obvious reasons. And I said to her, why don't you sit down and talk, and I'll just type, and thinking I would just, it would be, it would take me an hour and we'll get it down. And oh my goodness, to listen to the story, to listen to what someone who I had worked beside every day for 8 years, to listen to that story and to understand was earth tilting. And my hope is that we all learn how to listen, and that we keep listening, and that we hear with our eyes, and we hear with our hearts, and we hear with our ears. And that is my hope, because that is the only way I see us moving forward, is to listen. And then maybe one day we will have very different stories to listen to.